Everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to work on this pendant, and I'm calling this pendant the Window of Light pendant. And I was inspired by Eureka Crystal Beads' most recent collection called Stained Glass Collection. And here I'll show you, if you haven't seen it, here's the picture from it. How gorgeous is that? So I was inspired to make my own rose window. So this is what I came up with. Like that. And here's the back. Even the back is like really crazy. It looks very complicated, but it isn't. It's, just got to take it in steps and, take breaks, have a, cup of coffee and some cookies or tea. Okay, so I'm going to clear this off. We'll get a materials list going and we'll get started. Okay, let's get a materials list going. So many of the beads I used are from the Eureka Crystal Beads Stained Glass Collection, but not all of them. I did add some and change some. So I'm going to start with this gorgeous fancy stone, and this is from the collection. This is the Krakowski Solar Round Stone, 18 millimeter. Look at that. Isn't that stunning? If you don't have this collection or you just love the stone, I would buy the stone. It's so pretty. Look at that. That's a stunner. Okay. You'll need, so let's go through the seed beads. So you'll need some 8/0 seed beads. You'll need a 15/0 seed bead in a mat. I'm using Miyuki here. There's Toho in the collection. And then a delica, and I'm using a bronze delica, but there are delicas in the collection you can use. They're just, they're just all different colors. I wanted the bronze. And then I added a 15/0 in light metallic bronze. So those are pretty much the changes that I made. You'll need some 11/0 seed beads in colors, and in the collection they have this mix, and I think this mix is so worth just getting, buying the mix if you don't have the collection, because every color is in here and they're just so bright and pretty. But I pulled out the green and the blue. You'll need some pearls. These are 4.5 millimeter textured pearls. You'll need some bicones. I've got some green and pretty blue ones. You'll need a 3 millimeter Firepolished bead, and that is in a cyan. I have a size 11 beading needle, and I'm using 4-pound fire line, and there's a little stop bead right there. Also, what I added, the chain. So Eureka Crystal Beads carries Rolo chain, so I will add the chain, and here is, in the description box, and here is the toggle clasp I attached it to. So I think that's everything. Anything I forgot, I'll put in the description box below the video. I'll put other information that I have in there, possible discount codes, something I added or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to clear this off and we're going to get started. So thread your needle with about 6 feet of thread, put on a stop bead around the middle. So I've picked up and dropped down to my stop bead 48 delicas. Now, usually for an 18 millimeter, let's say Rivoli, because this is not a Rivoli, this is a fancy stone, you do 46 is usually the fit, but I tried it and I thought it was just a little bit too tight because we have a lot of embellishment we're going to do, so we need some space. So we're going to do 48 for this one. Okay, we're going to sew these into a circle by sewing through the first bead after the stop bead. Like so, and then just reinforce all the way around. Okay, so I've reinforced all the way around, exiting a delica. I'm going to pick up a color now. I'm exiting here. I'm going to skip the next delica and sew through the following one. It's going to place that bead right there on top of the previous one. Pull in a little bit for the next one. I'm going to pick up a delica, so I'm using the blue here. Exiting here, I'm going to skip the next one and sew through the following one. Picking up a delica, exiting here, skip this one, sew through the next one. Just going to do this all the way around. Exiting here, going to skip this one and sew through the next one. And there you go. So I'll let you go ahead and do that. Meet me at the end and we'll step up. Okay, last delica. Whoops, that one went flying. Let me find another blue one. Here we go. We're going to step up. So exiting here, I'm going to skip that next one. I'm going to sew through the next delica, which is that bronze one, and then the blue one on the diagonal. It's going to place that delica right there. So this is what we have so far. Another round. So I'm going to go for the green one now. Picking up my green delica. I'm going to sew through the next sticking out bead, which is that blue delica. Up bead, whatever you want to call it. So just putting on another round of the color, or a color. So just like that. And as I do this, I'm holding my sort of my thumbnail or my thumb sort of right there and giving it a little pull inward so it will start to curve. So do that all the way around and then we'll step up. Okay, let's step up. So picking up my last green delica, exiting here, I'm going to sew through this blue one and then the green one on the diagonal. And now I'm ready to put some more beads on. Let's add some 15-0. So I'm going to pick up a matte 15-0. I'm exiting right here, this bronze bead. I'm just going to sew through the next delica, which is right there, or sticking out bead, whatever you want to call it. Up bead. So I'm just going to keep adding 15-0s all the way around, right through each delica. Just like so. So I'll just let you, oops, get rid of the cat hair. Just let you go around and meet me at the end and we'll step up. Let's step up. So picking up my 15-0, exiting this delica, I'm going to sew through this delica and then the 15-0 on the diagonal. So I'm going to put my last 15-0 on. And this is what it looks like so far. So at this point we're going to add another round of 15-0. So we're going to do what we just did. So picking up a 15-0, exiting this 15-0, I'm just going to sew through the next sticking out bead, which is this 15-0. And we're just going to keep doing that all the way around. Oops, caught on my scissor. Just like so. So I'll let you go ahead and come all the way around and then we'll step up. Let's step up. So picking up my 15-0, exiting this 15-0 right here. I'm going to sew through this 15-0 and then the one on the diagonal. Just like so. So this is what we have so far. Okay, this is what we have so far. So this is going to be the back. So I'm going to leave this thread and needle because we're going to add another round on the back. But first I want to do a little on the front. So I'm just going to turn it around to this side. You see that's where the blue and green delicas are. Exiting a delica. You can just pop your stone in and give it a little pull. So that's a really good fit. We have a little bit of room. And so we're going to start adding some 15-0s. I'm just going to hold the stone in there with my thumb. And I'm exiting, it's hard to see. Wait, there you go. So I'm exiting the delica right there. I'm going to pick up a 15-0. I'm using this shiny one. And I'm going to sew through the next sticking out bead, which is the next delica. So once I get one on, you'll be able to see where I am. There we go. Picking up a 15-0. Sewing through the next delica. Just going to do this all the way around. We're actually going to do what we did on, like we did on the back. We're going to do a couple of rounds of 15-0s. So keep putting on your 15-0s. I'm pulling in a little bit, like so. And meet me at the end and we'll step up. Okay, it's time to step up. So I'm exiting this delica right here. I'm going to sew through this delica. You can see that. And then the 15-0 on the diagonal. And now we're stepped up and ready to put some more beads on. Let's add another round of 15-0s. So just picking up a 15-0, exiting a 15-0 right here. Just going to sew through the next sticking out bead, which is the 15-0. And I'm going to pull in a little bit as I go. So just putting on your 15-0, sewing through the 15-0. Just like that. So, and pull in a little bit like that. So do that all the way around and then we'll step up. So picking up my last 15-0, exiting here, I'm going to, this 15-0, I'm going to sew through this one. And then the 15-0 on the diagonal. Give it a little pull inward. And this is what it looks like so far. Okay, so we're going to do a little picot now. All the way around, and then we'll do the same thing on the back. So we're exiting a 15-0. Let me pull in pretty tight here. So exiting a 15-0 right here. I'm going to pick up a 15-0, sticking with my shiny one. I'm going to go back one 15-0 and then through the 15-0 I'm exiting. And see what that does? It puts a little picot on there. So I'm exiting here. I'm going to sew through the next 15-0 down here and then the one on the diagonal. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to sew through this 15-0 and the one on the diagonal. So we're setting up to put another picot on, like that. Then I'm going to pick up my 15-0. I'm exiting here, right here. I'm going to sew through this one and the one I'm exiting. Like that. And now I have another picot on. Do that one more time. Exiting this 15-0, I'm going to sew through this one and the one on the diagonal. And then again, through this one and the one on the diagonal. And then I'm going to pick up a 15-0, exiting right here. I'm going to sew back one and then through the bead I'm exiting to put another picot. That's what it looks like. You're going to do that all the way around. Okay, adding the last picot point. So exiting right here. I'm going to go back one and then through the one I'm exiting. And this is what it looks like. This is what we have so far on the front. So we're going to leave that thread and turn it around onto the back. Okay, so I'm going to turn it to the back and I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'm going to put that little point bead on. So you'll be exiting 15-0. Just going to pick up a 15-0 and I'm going to use the shiny one. Exiting right here. I'm just going to sew through this one and then the one I'm exiting. Like so. And then I'm going to advance my needle to the next 15-0 and then the 15-0 on the diagonal. Going to do that again. You may have to do these one at a time because for some reason the matte beads, your needle doesn't slide through as easily in the matte beads. So here, I've gone through the two. I'm ready to add this bead on, so exiting here, I'm just going to come back through this one and then through the one I'm exiting. Yeah, these are a little bit harder to get through. So here I have my next picot on, and then through this one. And the one on the diagonal. Yeah, I have to do these one at a time. And then this one. And the one on the diagonal. Like so. Then we're going to add our 15-0. So exiting here, going back one, and then through the one I'm exiting. That's going to be my next picot on. So you're just going to do that all the way around. Okay, last picot point. So exiting right here. So I'm going to come back through this one and then the one I'm exiting. Just like that. And then I'm going to advance just to end the round through this 15-0 right here. And then we're done on the back. We're done on the front. This is what it looks like so far. Okay, so here's the back. I'm going to leave the thread just in case you want to put a bead in between these points here. So we'll just leave this and we'll decide on that in a little bit. I'm going to go around to the front and we'll be exiting bead right here. I'm going to advance my needle through the next 15-0 here, through this delica, and then through the next delica right there. So I'm exiting this blue one right here. Okay, so we are exiting this blue delica right here. So I'm going to do a little stitch in the ditch. I'm going to pick up my delica and I'm using the bronze one and I'm just going to sew through the next blue one in line like that. Do it again. Exiting this blue one, just going to sew through the next blue one in line. Just going to do that all the way around. That one looked a little big. So here, this is what it's going to look like. Just keep adding your delicas until you come to the end. Just through each blue one in line, just like that. Okay, last delica. Exiting this blue one, I'm just going to sew through this one, so the next one, just like that. And then at this point, I'm going to end this thread. You only have a little bit left, and we've used it a lot. So let's go ahead and end this thread off. So I'm exiting right here, this blue one. I'm just going to sew on the diagonal through a few delicas. Until it feels strong. I mean, it's pretty tight. Okay, so that's done. I'm just going to clip off this thread. And then here I am on the back. So here's the front, here's the back. We are exiting this little 15-0 right here. I'm going to sew through this 15-0. This one, this one, I'm working my way to the top bead there, and then I'm going to go through this one. And I did this because you might want to add something here. So when I hold it to the side, so the point is sticking up a little bit. It's not sharp, but it will lay on skin or on clothing. So maybe you want to add something there. So let me take a look and see what we have. Like on my original, I didn't add anything there, but I think we could add something there. So let me go take a look and see what we can put in there. Okay, so we're done with the front. Now we're going to work on the back a little bit. So here I'm exiting one of the point beads right here of one of the picots. I'm going to pick up an 8/0. It's from the collection. I'm going to sew through the next point bead. Then I'm going to pick up an 11/0. and I'm going to sew through the next one. 8-0 through the next one. 11-0 through the next one. So you're going to do that, just going to alternate. So do that all the way around. Okay, last bead, an 11-0 through the top, that 15-0 through the 8-0 through the next 15-0, and if you want, through the 11-0 and exit the 8-0. So you can do two things here. You can just keep it this way, just reinforce it all the way around, or you can pick up two 15-0s and sew through the next 8-0. So that'll put a 15-0 like in front of the green bead. It's up to you how much you want to cover the back, but this is how it's going to look. So I'll let you decide that. You can even go further if you want to cover the whole back, but I don't think it's necessary. This will keep it off, off the skin. See it from the side, and it'll look pretty on the back. All right, so I'm going to finish up, and then you can sew in this thread, and then we'll finally start the embellishment, the fun part. Okay, now for the fun part. So we're going to find center on our stone, sort of. So I want 3 beads, the 3 center beads at the top. I'm going to work over these beads here. So 1, 2, and these 3 delicas right here. So kind of find center on your piece, and it's not going to be one of these points. It'll probably be in between. And I'm just to give me a little reference point, I'm going to start right there. So there are the 3 beads that I want to work over, but I'm going to come out of the 2 and start with this one. So I'm going to work over these 3 beads, the next 3 beads, and so on. Okay, so just thread your needle with about 5 feet of thread, put on a stop bead, leave enough of a tail to sew in, and come through that first delica right there. Okay, so we're exiting that delica. I've picked up 4 of my matte 15-0s. I'm using Miyuki here. A shiny 15-0 and 4 matte 15-0. So I have 9 beads altogether, 4 of the matte, the shiny ones in the middle. Exiting here, I'm going to skip this delica and I'm going to sew through the following one. It's going to give me a little point, and don't worry about if it doesn't stay and it looks wonky. We have a bunch to go and everything's going to straighten out and be gorgeous. Going to pick up my 11-0 using the green one. I'm going to sew through the next delica. I'm going to repeat that. 4 15-0s in the matte, 1 shiny, and 4 matte. Like so. Exiting here, skip this one, and sew through this one. Then I'm going to pick up my green 11-0 and sew through the next one. 2 points on. I'm going to do that again. 4 matte, a shiny, and 4 matte 15-0s. Exiting here, skipping this one, sewing through the next one. Just like that, picking up the green 11-0, sewing through the next delica. Whoops, I got stuck. Here we go. Just like that. So you're just going to repeat that all the way around. Putting on my last, I put on my last little point here. Here's my 11-0. I'm going to sew through the delica. So now I have all the points on. And let's go ahead and advance our needle up these 4 matte 15-0s and the shiny one. Just like that. I'm going to get your back thread tight. You can even sew in that back thread while we're, so everything is nice and tight. Okay, there you go. This is what we have so far. So what I want you to do before we add the bicones is I just want you to reinforce everything you just did. So all these little So you're exiting, you know, the 15-0. So all the beads that you just put on go through the delica, the 11-0 delica, reinforced. Just go around again. And it gives it a little more structure so that it will be easier to add more beads on. So go ahead and get that done. Sew in your tail thread and then make sure you're exiting a point bead right here, the little shiny bead, and then we'll move on. Let's add some bicones. So this is where we're going. I put one on already. We're going to put a little picot on and then we're going to add a bicone in that space. So you'll be exiting one of the point beads just like this. I'm going to pick up 3 15-0s in the shiny and I'm going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. It's going to make a little picot. I'm going to pick up my bicone. I'm alternating here. I'm alternating blues and greens. So exiting here, I'm going to sew through this delica. I'm going to sew right back up the bicone. Like so. And then just look at a little pull down there. That's going to place that bicone right there. And then I'm going to sew through that point bead, the little shiny one that we started with. We've got a bicone on. I'm going to advance my needle down these 4 15-0s and the delica, working my way up to that next point bead. Like so. Through the 11-0 in the next delica. So through the next 4 matte 15-0s and then through the shiny 15-0. And now I'm ready to put another bicone on. Let's do one more together. So I'm going to pick up 3 of my 15-0s. I'm exiting this shiny 15-0. I'm going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. Make a little picot. I'm going to pick up my green bicone. I'm going to sew through this delica, back up through right through that green bicone again, like that, and then through that shiny point bead, get your thread caught, like so. And then through these 4, thinking I'm caught here. Am I? No. Okay. Through the 4 15-0s and the delica. Through the 11-0 and the delica. Through these the 4 matte beads, the matte 15-0s, and the shiny 15-0. And now you're ready to add another bicone on. So I'm just going to let you go off and finish adding all your bicones, your picots, and your bicones, and then come back and we'll do another round. Okay, last picot and bicone. So, like before, exiting here. Picking up my 3 15-0s, making that little picot. I'm going to pick up my last bicone. Now, this one's going to be a green one. I have several samples that I work from, so whatever color you're at, just put that one on. So through the delica and right back up through that bicone, and then through that little point 15-0, just like that. So now we have all our bicones on. Okay, so I have all our bicones on. I'm exiting that little bottom, that little 15-0 there. I'm just going to sew down through these 4 15-0s and the delica. And then through just the green 11-0. So you'll be exiting that green 11-0. Do this little zigzag pattern. So you're exiting your 11-0. I'm going to pick up 4 of my 15-0s using the shiny ones, and I want to find a spot where I can get a zigzag going and it looks, you know, nice and even. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at this picot. This is where I'm going to attach. I'm going to sew through this side bead of that picot. Just like that. Then I'm going to pick up 4 15-0s and I'm going to sew through the 11-0. When I give that a pull, do you see how that gives me a nice little sort of point there? So we're exiting this 11-0. Now this one's going to change. So when I'm exiting here, I'm going to drop them down, and do you see how that group of 4 is going to attach to this picot, but not this side bead, this one on the other side. Just like that. I'm going to pick up 4 15-0s. I'm going to sew through the 11-0. See how that sits really nicely. 4 15-0s. This one should, when I bring those down, that should go on that side bead of the picot. So here's the picot. It's going to go on this side now, right through this one. Like that. 4 15-0s. Sew through the 11-0. I'm going to pick up 4 15-0s. I think we're going to go back to the bead on the other side of that, this side of the picot. So we're always attaching to the picot. So this time, we're going to attach to this side. So you're just alternating attaching to the sides of the picot to get this nice little zigzag pattern. So that's what you're going to do all the way around. Now, I'll put some timestamps in to where I start this so that you can go back and look at it, because I know it's hard with the dark beads to tell. So you're just going to go all the way around and you'll end up with sort of a zigzag pattern like so. Okay, last 4 15-0s. I'm exiting. So I went through the outside side bead of that picot, and then I'm going to sew through the 11-0, and you have all your sort of zigzag pattern. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to get some more color on in a minute. So we're exiting the green 11-0. I'm going to pick up 3 of my matte 15-0s. I'm going to sew up through this bicone like that. I'm going to pick up a matte 15-0. I'm going to sew back through the bicone. It's a method for my madness here. I'm going to pick up 3 of my 15-0s, and I'm going to sew, mixing the bicone, I'm going to sew through the 11-0. So that's going to give me, these 3 15-0s on either side of the bicone, and I've got a little one up there. 3 15-0s, exiting the green 11-0, up through the bicone, 15-0, back down the bicone. Make sure those sit nicely. 3/15 through the 11. So just like that. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to get some more color on in a minute. So we're exiting the green 11. I'm going to pick up 3 of my matte 15. I'm going to sew up through this bicone like that. I'm going to pick up a matte 15. I'm going to sew back through the bicone. It's a method for my madness here. I'm going to pick up 3 of my 15, and I'm going to sew, mixing the bicone, I'm going to sew through the 11. So that's going to give me, you know, these 3 15 on either side of the bicone, and I've got a little one up there. 3 15, exiting the green 11, up through the bicone, 15, back down the bicone, make sure those sit nicely. 3 15 through the 11. So just like that. Last 3 15. I'm exiting the bottom of the bicone. I'm going to sew through that 11, the green 11, and then I'm just going to advance my way down through the first 3 matte 15. Just like that. Pick up my 3mm fire polish, the red one, exiting these 3 matte beads. I'm going to sew through these 3, the 3 on the other side, matte beads. It's going to place that fire polish right there. I'm going to sew through the 11, through the next 3 15 matte beads. I'm going to pick up my 3mm fire polish and sew through the next 3 matte beads. It's going to place that one on. Through the 11, and then 3 15. Picking up my fire polish. You got it, through the next 15, 3 15 like that. Just give them a little push down. And you just, well, I'll just let you continue. Go through the 11, the 3 15, add your fire polish, and do that all the way around. Last fire polish bead, so we're exiting these 3 15. We're going to pick up our fire polish, sew through the next 3 15. That'll push, and finally we can see some definition in between all the beads, putting the colors on like that. So I think that's looking really pretty, and if you obviously, if you're working along with me, you'll feel that it's really solid now, but we have a little bit more to go. You can sew this thread in at this point. You just have a little bit left, and I think it's time to start a new thread for the rest of the embellishment. Okay, so now we're going to surround our bicones with some 15. So I've threaded my needle with about 2.5, 3 feet of thread, put on a stoppie, left enough of the tail to sew in. I'm just, I've already gone through a little bit, so you'll come through that top 15, right above that matte one, above the bicone. So just come through that one with your needle and thread. So like pretend that's not on. And then you're going to pick up 5 15, and you're going to sew through that green 11, get in there, and you might have to just like slant your needle a bit to get that in there. So that's going to put on 5/15, so it'll just look like that. And then you're going to pick up 5/15, and you're going to sew through the top, that little 15 on top of the next bicone. Pick up 5/15, get through that next 11/0. Like so. And you're just going to do that all adding my last 5/15, so I'm exiting the green 11/0. This is my tail thread right here. I'm going to sew through that top 15/0, the 15/0 on top of the bicone, and I lost my stop bead there, so anyway, this is what it's going to look like. This is what we have so far. So we're going to do one more round. We'll put some pearls on, and we'll put them on sort of in the back here, so they just show a little bit in the corners. So let's give that a try. So before you do anything, sew all your threads in. You're going to add a new thread for this. So sew them in nice and snug. Make sure everybody's in good shape, and you know, can kind of flop it around. It's not going to fall apart. There you go. So thread your needle with about 2 feet of thread, put on a stop bead, leave a tail to sew in, and we will start the pearl embellishment. Okay, so pulled in pretty tight here. So we're going to start on the point, you know, this area right here. So here's the little Picot with the bottom shiny bead there. I'm going to go back 2 and then sew through those 2 and the shiny bead right there. And then I'm going to go down 2 on this side. And I'll show you close up in a second. Okay. So we went up through these 2 matte, the shiny, and down these 2 matte. So that's going to be our the path that we're going to use. Okay, now I'm going to pick up an 11/0 in any color you like. I think I'm going to pop a red one in there. Well, let's see, do I want a red one in there? Or what about a blue? Let's go for a blue. I'm going to pick up a blue, an 11/0, the pearl, and the blue, like so. I'm going to sew through those 2 matte beads and the shiny bead on the other side. See that? And then down the 2 matte beads on the other side. That's going to add my first pearl on. And as we go around and pull it a little bit, you know, you're not going to see the whole pearl, but you'll see it'll be sticking out like so. All right, should we do another one? Let's do another one. So I'm going to pick up my 11/0, my pearl, and my 11/0. Next thing, I came out of these 2. I'm going to sew through these 2 matte beads and the shiny bead of that next point there. And now I have another pearl on. I'll do it one more time. 11/0. Oops, you got to go down. So you're at the point now. So you've got to go down the 2 matte beads on the other side. There we go. So then pick up your 11/0, your pearl, and 11/0. Oops. Next thing, that second matte bead down, I'm going to sew through these two matte beads and the shiny bead on the next point, and then down the two matte beads on the other side. There we go. Give it a little pull, you don't have to be too tight. That's what it looks like. So let me turn it on the front, see what you think. So I think that looks really pretty. Wait, I should have three. There we go. Okay. So I think that looks really pretty. So just do that all the way around, and then we'll tie in that thread, and we'll have our pendant. Okay, putting on the last 11-0 purl, 11-0. So coming out of here, 11-0 purl, 11-0 through this one, and that point bead right there. I'm going to give that a little pull. So when I turn it over, you have, you know, they're just showing, they're not showing 100%, and I like that. You can even give it a little pull in, I think, from both sides. You know, the tail thread and the, oh, that's going this way. Okay, the tail thread and the working thread a little bit. If you wanted to go in a little bit more, but I think that's about it. So this is what it looks like. So looking really pretty. So you're going to sew those threads in, and then we'll add a bail and you know, see what we can do with the chain. Okay, so now we're going to add on these connectors. Now you can, I'm going to add two of them. I'm going to put one there and one here. And then, you know, you have the option of adding a chain on, and it makes a real pretty necklace. But you can also do with just one. And put a little jump ring there, or connect two chains, or just a jump ring and one chain. You could do a metal chain, a seed bead chain. You can do a metal chain, which did I take one out? Here. Oh, here, I think I did. Okay. You can do a metal chain, like a Rolo chain. That would be really pretty. You can do a beaded chain, whatever you like. And you could just have that as your bail. But I thought maybe some of you would like to do it like so. And that way you can add a chain on either end, you know, like so. And that would be really pretty as well. So we'll do that this way, but you can choose whatever you like. All right, so let's get started. Thread your needle with about 1.5 feet of thread, put on a stop bead, leave a tail to sew in. I'm going to work around this pearl right here. So I'm going to start on the back, so right here, and I'm going to connect like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in as tight as I can. I'm going to sew, here's this the little picot point. I'm going to sew through this top picot point and the next bead. I'm going to sew through my little connector. I'm going to pick up an 11-0, and I'm going to sew through this pearl like that. I'm going to pick up an 11-0, I'm going to sew through the other side, the other connector side like that. And then I'm going to sew through these two 15-0s. That's the next two of that next little picot point, like that. And that's going to add my piece on. But now we're going to have to do a little bit of reinforcing here. So I'm going to go down this bead of the picot, the bottom one, right here, and then the two, then, so this bottom one, and then, I can't get through, let's see, there we go, the bottom one, and then the two matte ones. See where I'm headed to that little blue bead. Through the blue bead, the blue 11-0, and the pearl. Blue 11-0, pearl. And the next blue 11-0. So I'm just going around. All right, so now I'm exiting that blue 11-0. Right here. Gotta get in there. We're going to sew through the two matte 15-0s right here. See that? So the two right here before the shiny. And if you can get through the shiny one, get through that one as well. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I've come through that shiny bead right here on the inside. I'm going to go through the side bead. So I'm at that little picot now, so side bead, top bead, and side bead, and this bead, and then I'm just going to go right through everything again. So this bead, the part of the connector, the 11-0, you got it, pearl 11-0, and the connector, give that a pull. Let's see what we did. There we go. So now we have the two connectors on. So you're just going to sew that thread in, so both threads in, and now you're all set up to add whatever you would like right here. Okay, we're done. So I added a Rollo chain, and I'll link some Rollo chain down in the description box for you. And of course the clasp from the collection. I just opened up the rings and put them on, nothing fancy. And this is what it looks like. I think it's so pretty. I love how it came out. I love the front. The back is crazy, but I love the back too. I think this would be a really, really pretty holiday piece. And you know, my blue velvet or my green velvet duster. I'm not retiring them yet. I think it would look so pretty. You can even make a pin out of this, so don't even put the chain on. And you can put a pin back on this. I think that would be gorgeous too, or a purse charm. Anyway, there you go. Here's your pendant. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you make it. Post it on Facebook. All different colors. You know, choose your colors. Choose everything that you love. All right, so take care, and I'll see you next time.